The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
Coming up next, it's the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime television right here on My 24 Milwaukee. We're going to talk about Chris Jericho's second week in WWE, Brodus Clay, the Funkasaurus, TNA Genesis from this past Sunday night, the history book, Star of the Week, Point Counterpoint, and we're giving away tickets to WWE's Elimination Chamber coming to Milwaukee on pay-per-view on Sunday, February 19th. It's an action-packed show, and it starts right now, right here on My 24 Milwaukee.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report, PrimeTime TV, the longest-running pro wrestling news program in the world, with your hosts, David Hero and Damian Nelson.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime television right here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Octavius and Tiberius, the alleged one-time Backyard Hall of Fame Knockouts Divas
Champion.
Hall of Famer
And a champion.
hero.
Why can't I be a champion?
Well, you pretend to be a Hall of Famer, so I guess you can be a champion.
Hall of Fame.
Lots to talk about in professional wrestling this week, so let's get right down to it. This week's top story is the Jericho saga continuing. Chris Jericho making his second appearance on WWE Raw this past Monday night, and it was intriguing again because he again said no words, but this time shed several tears. I don't know what's going on.
Those are not tears. He's
I saw tears.
mocking the audience. He's making light of the whole scenario.
There was a clear expectation that he would speak this week. So how is he mocking the audience? How is he mocking the whole scenario?
By going out there and teasing and showing he's reflecting the emotion he's receiving back to the fans.
They weren't crying.
Oh my God, it's Chris Jericho. I can't believe it. And then, of course, he turns it up a few more notches and shoots it right back at him.
Is he building intrigue with this? What's the reasoning behind
There's
all
only
this? What
one
sense
reason.
does it make?
Obviously, listen, from what I've been hearing and what you've been telling me is that CM Punk is going to be taking on Chris Jericho, Y2J at WrestleMania. They've invested a lot of time and money and merchandise into one CM Punk, your WWE champion. Chris Jericho is a fan favorite. Even though he's a heel at times, he's still loved and adored because he's funny, haha, he's a character. They want to make sure that when Chris Jericho gets in the ring with CM Punk, that he is booed. They want to make sure that the money, time, and effort invested into CM Punk is paid off. So they're going to do everything they can to just make the fans groan and not be pleased and be like, with Chris Jericho.
They fell for it again, though.
Of course,
At
they're
least
going to
off the
fall
bat
for it
this
next week. It's going to happen the next 3 or 4 weeks.
People are happy to see Jericho, which sort of leads to the point you just made. How long can this continue? I mean, as I said, I think there was a clear expectation amongst the audience that he would speak this week and explain his return last week.
Damian, does a real, true babyface wear a neon jacket? No, not at all. That's over the top. It is conceited. It is obnoxious.
Arrogant, pompous, prickly.
Absolutely. With ears, the whole thing. So, yeah, that's where they're going with it.
How long can it continue? How long can this go? How many more weeks can we endure, or will we expect to see Chris Jericho
until the Monday
not say
after
anything?
Royal Rumble, when Punk finally confronts Y2J. Right now, Punk is busy with Dolph Ziggler. That's where all of his effort. He can't be sidetracked with Jericho because then it belittles the challenge of Dolph Ziggler. So let Punk and Dolphy Z do their thing from now until Rumble. Then the Monday after Rumble, Jericho and Punk will have their big showdown.
You say Punk confronts Jericho. Why?
Because Jericho's going to be in the ring again, doing nothing, and then Punk's going to go out. Punk's going to go out there
5 weeks
and cut a promo.
3 weeks?
Absolutely. Why not? They want to make sure the fans do not. They want to make sure when Jericho comes out, he's booed off the bat. because now he's just wasting everybody's time. So when Punk comes out to be the true savior and to save us from Chris Jericho, the crowd will go nuts and they will cheer and applaud. And then they can have their new messiah in CM Punk.
Do you really think at this time there is that real threat of the fans embracing Jericho over Punk? I mean,
Absolutely.
Punk is one of the most over guys in the company
But
right now.
whenever you bring back one of the superstars of the Attitude Era, whether it be Stone Cold, whether it be The Rock, whether it be Mick Foley, DX, Chris Jericho, I mean, that's just what's going to happen because the fans love those characters so much more than the ones they have today. It's the nostalgia pop. Even though nostalgia is not what it used to be, it's still going to get a great reaction.
It is widely expected that it will be CM Punk and Chris Jericho after, as you said, CM Punk is done with Dolph Ziggler.
And I feel bad for Dolph Ziggler because he has a great talent. He's one of the top guys in the company, and he's already being looked over.
Well, let's not forget the discussion that has been rumored to be happening within WWE about CM Punk and whether or not his championship reign will continue all the way through WrestleMania. And you could have Dolph Ziggler coming out of the Rumble with the championship because you can fix it all at the Elimination Chamber right here in Milwaukee. By the way, we hear there's only going to be one Elimination Chamber match this year.
That's it?
That's what all the reports are indicating.
So that means SmackDown's going to get screwed. Well, you know what? You know what's going to be?
Cody will be in that
You
match.
know what? Whatever brand wins the Rumble will not have the Elimination Chamber match.
Chris Jericho has laughed. He has cried. What does he do next week?
Nothing. He's just going to go out there and wave and nothing. He may not even show up. You know what? Here's what they're going to do. Maybe they'll have an in-ring interview with Jerry Lawler in Chris
him to
Jericho.
speak, yeah.
And then Jericho just shakes his hand, gives him a hug, waves, and leaves.
Or does he do the highlight reel and doesn't say a word?
That
You got the whole set, the Geritron 3000 or whatever it is and all that, and he just doesn't say anything.
Or maybe he just shows a video of his career explaining why he's the best in the world at what he does.
Ooh. Well, regardless, this, amongst other things that happened on Raw this past Monday night, nice red shirt, David Hero, are generating a ton of discussion and a ton of buzz. And if you're WWE, that's exactly what you want. It's working, even though many of you may not think it is. And we're going to talk much more about a lot more of that later on in this program. But still to come here on the Pro Wrestling Report, we're going to be discussing TNA Genesis, which was this past Sunday on pay-per-view. Back to point, counterpoint, David Hero.
Right
this
and
week
wrong.
we look at the Hall of Fame for WWE and whether or not a certain talent should be inducted. You're going to have your Star of the Week and the History Book as we look at the Royal Rumble 1999. All that along with WWE and TNA news. All still to come here on the Pro Wrestling Report, Prime Time. Sunday, January 29th, 5 o'clock bell time. It's Great Lakes Championship Wrestling back at the Horny Goat Hideaway. Come down and see live pro wrestling featuring stars such as Robbie E. from TNA Wrestling, Rhino, Scotty 2 Hottie, Al Snow, and former WCW star Gorgeous George. Stick around after the wrestling for a free viewing of the WWE Royal Rumble on the Midwest's largest television. GLCW, the Pro Wrestling Report, the Horny Goat Hideaway, and the Royal Rumble, all in one place on one night. For all you great fans, go to pwrshow.com for more information. pwrshow.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Anderson, and you are watching Damian Nelson and my super friend David Hero on Milwaukee's My 24. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report, Prime Time here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson alongside David Hero. And it's time to talk about World Wrestling Entertainment and a newsworthy week, David. Headlined, I would say, by a big return this past Monday night on Raw. It is a man who came to us from Planet Funk. The Funkasaurus himself, Brodus Clay. There's been a lot of discussion about this all week long. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people, well, fewer people love it. But let's give you the backstory on it. Brodus Clay had come from NXT and WWE. He spent a short time as Alberto Del Rio's bodyguard on Raw and had been gone for a while. And for the last several months, we've been teased with Brodus Clay's return to Raw. And last Monday night, this past Monday night, it finally happened. And I can't say anybody out there expected it to happen the way it did. And I think for that reason, that's why so many people hate it.
You know, when they announced them from Planet Funkadelic,
that was when the ridiculousness began.
Brodus Clay and the Funky Bunch. All of a sudden they come walking down the Titantron ramp.
With the Funkettes, don't
forget. I was
forget.
like, oh my God, what did they do to this guy? They have killed him off. And then it just like sunk in like, wow, freaking brilliant. I mean, the guy comes out, they can sell merchandise with him. He's a character, which is something that wrestling has been missing. I mean, if you think,
and what a lot of people out there have been asking for.
Absolutely. Brodus Clay is going to be a star. There's no question about it. He's already crossed over to the SmackDown brand. He's going to go back and forth, make a lot of money. The kids are going to get behind him. You can't help but smile. I mean, some of you are probably going to groan and say, oh my God, it sucks. You should be the monster heel.
Be a monster heel.
But here's the thing. They already got the monster heel. They already got Kane on Raw, chasing people, scaring your United States champion. They don't need Brodus Clay to do the same thing.
And what does Raw and WWE in general need? They've got a great number of heels.
They need a strong babyface. And right now, what's cool about the Brodus, I don't know Brodus Clay personally. I do know that he used to be Snoop Dogg's bodyguard. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were at some party or some after show or somewhere, and somebody saw him screwing around, dancing and being goofy. Just like how when they saw John Cena do his rapping the first time.
Or heard Booker T doing mock commentary backstage.
And that's when they says, hey, you know what, let's run with this. Maybe this is who his personality really is. Let him magnify that. Let him be somebody else that can draw and be different. Wrestling needs characters, and Brodus Clay is definitely a character.
Kurt Hawkins was the victim as he got squashed Friday night on SmackDown. Tyson Kidd was the victim getting squashed. The fact that Brodus Clay was not just on Raw but also on SmackDown,
that tells you something,
is huge news.
Absolutely. Whenever they take somebody and put them on both brands, they want to maximize the earning potential. They want to get him out there in front of a massive audience, and that's what they're doing. Brodus Clay.
And I say this, I'll give it 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, you're going to be thinking about buying that Planet Funk t-shirt.
Oh, absolutely.
You will. And it's, well, we'll talk. I think we'll talk more about this in 5 more minutes.
I don't want to see you having any Funkettes around the show. Don't be stealing his gimmick.
Well, they're in the green room right now.
I know how you operate.
Also, very big news from Raw this past Monday night. 2 announcements of inductees into the class of 2012 for the WWE Hall of Fame. The first of which was Edge. Edge, who was forced into retirement by injury after last year's WrestleMania, is now on the fast track into the WWE Hall of Fame. And initially, I thought this might be a little too soon. Not that he doesn't deserve it. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but Edge, a surprising announcement, I would say, this past Monday night on Raw as an inductee.
But let's not forget, coming out in April is the Edge DVD.
We heard about that on Monday Night Meltdown.
The Four Horsemen
are the next inductees, and this one's going to be tricky, folks, because the centerpiece of the Horsemen, if you will, and I'm not talking about J.J. Dillon, Ric Flair, may be under contract to another company, TNA Wrestling. But you gotta venture to say, you gotta imagine that Ric Flair is gonna be a part of this induction.
Do you think Ric Flair cares if he's under contract with TNA?
Ric Flair definitely doesn't care.
So he will be at the Hall of Fame.
He was last year.
He'll be on TV in the Hall of Fame. How can you not have Ric Flair being inducted with the Four Horsemen?
What is WWE saying by making this statement, focusing on Ric Flair, showing Ric Flair on the list of people who are, obviously are being inducted? I wonder about this. Obviously, TNA's got its challenges, as does WWE, and Ric Flair has his challenges, as do many other talents in the business. Is this a buoy being thrown to Ric Flair to get him back into, I guess, a better environment for him overall, World Wrestling Entertainment?
It's not who you know.
It's what you know?
Absolutely.
That Horseman storyline is going to develop a lot more over the course of the next few weeks. Who's going to be in it? who should, who shouldn't be. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in 5 more minutes, our online extended version of the Pro Wrestling Report.
And that's what I'm
Time.
saying. I'm going to tell you in 5 more minutes. I got the inside scoop on Ric Flair in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, do you? Or do
Absolutely.
you? Sure, I'll be glad to. Can't wait to hear that. But what I do want to find out is who this week's PWR Star of the Week is going to be. Let's go to David Hero, who is going to share with you his what he calls wisdom. It's this week's Star of the Week.
This week's PWR Star of the Week is the man that dominated both the Raw and SmackDown brands. Not only did he come to the ring with brand new music, he came from a brand new planet, Planet Funk. Brodus Clay, the Funkasaurus, the man with the plan, the guy who is going to take over Raw and SmackDown. He is this week's PWR Star of the Week.
Sunday, January 29th, 5 o'clock bell time. It's Great Lakes Championship Wrestling back at the Horny Goat Hideaway. Come down and see live pro wrestling featuring stars such as Robbie E. from TNA Wrestling, Rhino, Scotty 2 Hottie, Al Snow, and former WCW star Gorgeous George. Stick around after the wrestling for a free viewing of the WWE Royal Rumble on the Midwest's largest television. GLCW, the Pro Wrestling Report, the Horny Goat Hideaway, and the Royal Rumble, all in one place on one night. For all you great fans, go to pwrshow.com for more information. pwrshow.com. Wow, I'm a little surprised. I'm a lot surprised, David Hero, but not really. Brodus Clay is the Star of the Week.
He is a rock star of the week.
Somebody call my mama. How do you think Curtis the Cat Miller feels about all this?
He should be happy that people are now talking about him again. You know what? That's talking about Brodus Clay. People say, oh my God, he stole the Cat's theme song. Let's not forget, there was a pretty impressive, amazing wrestling superstar, Hulk Hogan. He took the theme song of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, Real America.
Kurt Angle took the Patriots theme. That's recycled quite a bit.
Yeah.
But anyways, good pick with Star of the Week, but it's time now to talk about TNA Wrestling. And last Sunday night, TNA had a pay-per-view called Genesis, where we saw Bobby Roode retain the TNA Championship over Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy, who won by disqualification. Bobby Roode continues in his win if you can ways win by any means ways on pay-per-view this past Sunday night.
Bobby Roode, they're doing the absolute best they can to make sure he has that Ric Flair world champion mystique about him. People are going to want to pay to see Bobby Roode get beat. That's what that's what they're building it towards.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gone over on AJ Styles. He didn't beat Jeff Hardy, but he retained the title against Jeff Hardy. And now he's going to be going up against his good, close personal friend again.
Because on Impact Wrestling this past Thursday night, James Storm became the #1 contender, defeating Kurt Angle. And it looks like at Against All Odds, we're going to see those two in a matchup to determine the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. What's that face for?
You know, if you think of all the great tag teams that have happened, that have come down, where one has gone on to become a world champion, when you got the Hart Foundation, where Bret Hart became world champion, he never headlined a pay-per-view against Jim Neidhart. Okay.
Shawn Michaels didn't headline one against Marty Jannetty.
No, I mean, Booker T never headlined one against his brother. It's just like, wow. I mean, I can't think of any time where a tag team has a split tag team has headlined a pay-per-view.
Is it a bad thing?
I don't.
Be a good match.
No. It's going to be a great match. But as much as I like both guys, is this going to sell pay-per-views? You better have a strong undercard with fan favorites against heels. And I'm not talking about Pope and Devon again. I'm talking you need to have like a Jeff Hardy in a good match against a top heel, maybe Bubba Ray. Who knows?
Austin Aries retains the X Division Championship. Gail Kim retains the Knockouts Championship. Disqualification shenanigans involved in that match with brass knuckles as well. Overall, a solid wrestling effort from TNA, from Genesis on Sunday. And I was a little surprised at how many of you weren't talking about it as the pay-per-view happened and subsequently after it as well. But those are the results, at least the big ones from TNA Genesis this past Sunday night on pay-per-view. In 5 more minutes, we're going to talk about some big news from TNA about their television television tapings and Impact Wrestling coming up over the next few weeks. But still to come here on the Pro Wrestling Report, we've got the history book looking at the 1999 WWE Royal Rumble. Point counterpoint. Should Randy Savage be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame? That is the question we will ask. Huge news on how you can win tickets to WWE Elimination Chamber on pay-per-view right here from the Pro Wrestling Report and more. The Pro Wrestling Report Primetime continues right here on My 24 Milwaukee.
Hey, this is Harry Smith. You're watching the Pro Wrestling Report on My 24.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television. And David, as we said before we went to that break, WWE Elimination Chamber comes to, what are you doing?
I'm drinking the Brodus Clay Kool-Aid.
WWE Elimination Chamber comes to Milwaukee's Bradley Center in February, and the Pro Wrestling Report each week is going to be giving you a chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to that event. All you have to do is answer our trivia question.
4-pack of tickets?
A 4-pack of tickets. You get 4 free tickets to WWE Elimination Chamber if your name is selected, if you send in a response to the trivia question each and every week leading up to Elimination Chamber.
Make sure everything is legible, that we can read it.
Send your response to chamber@pwrshow.com. Again, that's chamber@pwrshow.com. And David, this question this week, the first question this week, who won the 1996 WWE King of the Ring, which just so happened to have happened here in Milwaukee at the what was known as the Mecca Arena at the time?
I know it's free tickets, but that's the question you're going to give them?
The answer is always C, you know. Chamber@pwrshow.com. You can win 4 tickets, a 4-pack of tickets to WWE Elimination Chamber, and we will have the winner announced next week right here on Primetime Television on My 24 Milwaukee. It's time for this week's Point Counterpoint. Why the sad face? What's wrong?
Did that really just happen?
Yeah, we just took a timeout.
You and Andy ruined my moment. I get one segment by myself and you got to jump in and be all happy feet. You know what? That's fine. Because you know what? Next week, I have a surprise. I will have the Heroettes. Next week.
That ought to be good. Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we got a minute here. Let's
We
go.
were trying to be in the spirit of the Star of the Week. We were so excited when you announced them.
Spirit of something.
Let's go to this week's Point Counterpoint. The question this week is, should the Macho Man, Randy Savage, be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in conjunction with this year's WrestleMania? If we can get a minute on the clock, Andy, and the bell, I will start with our point. Randy the Macho Man Savage is a star who is greater than a Coco Beware, a Drew Carey, and some of the other people who are already in the Hall of Fame. Randy Savage has proven over his time in professional wrestling as not only a wrestler but a broadcaster and a champion that he deserves to be in the upper echelon of professional wrestling and right alongside all of the great names that are already in the Hall of Fame. Randy Savage is synonymous with wrestling in Florida. Randy Savage, who of course passed away last May in an unfortunate heart attack and car accident, the timing is perfect. The timing is absolutely right, but at the same time, maybe it could be considered as sensationalism. I don't think so, which is why I think Randy Savage deserves to be on that list of inductees into this year's WWE Hall of Fame in Miami, Florida. It's what the fans want, it's what everyone wants, and it's what the right thing to do is for WWE, in my opinion. It's time for...
It's my time, my turn. Listen, I have no problem with the Macho Man Randy Savage going into the Hall of Fame. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. The only problem is this is not going to be his first ballot. It is The Rock's WrestleMania. Do you honestly think Vinnie Mac wants to have somebody upstage the guy he's built this WrestleMania on for the past year? No, you got Edge in. You're going to have Mil Mascaras, Carlos Colon rumored to be in, and now they're saying the late, great Yokozuna. There's enough star power for Miami. They don't need any more. Now, once again, I am not saying Macho Man should not go in the Hall of Fame, just should not be going in this year. You can have him next year, whether it be in Dallas or Toronto, wherever you want. But this year, this WrestleMania, Miami, Florida, is owned by the one and the only, the great one, The Rock.
Love it when that happens. You're supposed to stop talking when you hear the little bell.
Cheated.
You only get a minute.
Cheated. That was not a minute. You get like 45 minutes. I get what, 30 seconds?
I'm in charge.
I get done quicker.
That's this week's Point Counterpoint, and the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime continues. It's time to go into the history book. And with one of the biggest pay-per-view events that happens every year coming up in just a few weeks, the Royal Rumble, we've been looking back at Royal Rumbles of old, and this week we're going to take a look back at the 1999 WWE Royal Rumble, which was the Royal Rumble that was won by the chairman, the CEO, Vince McMahon, who entered along with Stone Cold Steve Austin, the man he eliminated to win, as number 1 and 2, those two entering the Rumble in 99.
Who would have thought Vincent Kennedy McMahon was going to win the Royal Rumble?
And then be seemingly on his way to WrestleMania to be in the main event. That would not happen, of course, as the February pay-per-view changed those things up quite a bit. But a Rumble that was titled No Chance in Hell. And obviously that would become Vince McMahon's theme song from there, because the whole theme was Stone Cold Steve Austin had no chance in hell of winning the Royal Rumble, and he didn't. Vince McMahon is a Royal Rumble winner, and he eliminated Stone Cold Steve Austin to do it.
Do you think that when CM Punk and Johnny Ace have their big match, it will have as much heat as Austin McMahon?
Absolutely not.
Then why
Absolutely
does everyone keep comparing the two?
Because at its core, the story is the same.
It's not the same.
At its core, the story is the same. Rebellious star versus boss.
Okay.
That's where it ends.
But Johnny Ace really isn't the boss.
Oh, for them he is.
He's the VP of Talent Relations.
Executive VP of Talent Relations
Same.
and the interim Raw General Manager.
Hashtag
he hires
details.
and fires.
Yes, he does.
Also on that pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble 1999, it was The Rock versus Mankind in that famous I Quit match, which saw all of those vile chair shots to the head of Mick Foley from The Rock, with Dewey, Mick's son, and his wife sitting at ringside.
And Huey was there.
And it ended with the, I guess the first mic drop, really, The Rock, and I'll never forget this, with the microphone in Mick's face, standing there looking with the eyebrow up, and the canned audio, I quit, I quit, I quit, to end that matchup. But a brutal match, and one that I will never forget from the Royal Rumble 99.
What a great match, a way to get a ton of heat on The Rock. Mick Foley, I mean, that cemented his legacy as, you know, the hardcore icon.
Those chair shots.
Brutal. Brutal.
I mean, wow. Just destruction. Just vile.
And you can say what you want about having an aluminum chair or
Aluminium?
what. It was still 10 shots to the noggin.
On our Facebook page, you can take a look at some of those clips from that pay-per-view, Royal Rumble 1999, this week's history book. Well, that's a show, David Hero, and obviously
done?
the conversation continues online at pwrshow.com for the extended version of the Pro Wrestling Report, 5 more minutes where we talk more about Brodus Clay and also this whole Horseman Hall of Fame induction and TNA's big announcement of their tapings across the pond. For David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you very much for joining us here in this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television on My 24 Milwaukee. We'll see you next week.